Every now and then, I have periods in my life where I would feel very down and just not in a good mental state. And this past week or so has been one of those. And it's also these periods in my life that I need to remind myself of these important lessons in life that I've learned on my journey so far. I'm still learning so many things about life. So I want to make a video not only as a reminder for myself, but also I want to share with you so that maybe it can help you as well on your journey. I think these important lessons really help me navigate this chaotic, noisy, opinionated world. So maybe it can help you cultivate some mindset that would help you achieve inner peace and to live a simple life as well. So this video would be very different than the videos that I've been putting out. It's going to be the least scripted video. I'm purposefully doing that to challenge myself to be less of a perfectionist, and it's my way to allow me to be kinder to myself. But I did make some notes so that there are logical groups of thoughts so that it's easier for you to follow. And I'll probably put the timestamps, chapters in there so you can skip around, come back, take a pause. It's going to be long as well, I think, because there are a lot of thoughts. So maybe listen to this video while you're chopping cucumbers or folding your laundry, as there's probably not going to be any visuals. And if this is not your thing, feel free to skip it. No hard feelings. But right now, I need these reminders, and hopefully someone out there can make use of them as well. The first section is the lessons that I've learned in terms of introspection. And what I find is that it's so important to have perspective. Recently, I've been reading a lot of Stoicism quotes and snippets of different philosophers. And one thing that really stood out to me that I really resonated with is the idea that we suffer a lot more in our minds than we do in reality, especially for someone that overthinks a lot and is very hard on myself at times. I find that a lot of the things I think about are often not true and is not a good reflection of the reality. And by recognizing this and constantly reminding myself does give me a sense of peace. If you hear those banging noises, because the construction is still very well going outside. So I hope you can ignore that. Another thing that I've learned to recognize is that we are not the main character that we think we are in this world. And what I mean by that is sometimes it's so easy to just take everything around us for granted. Nowadays, we can just click a button and a package would arrive at our doors. And sometimes I find that when things don't go the way it's supposed to, we get very frustrated, annoyed, and sometimes even project that anger outwards towards the people that are responsible for these things happening. And we just take that for granted and subconsciously in a way expect that all these people are there to serve us. And I think that mindset is not a very healthy and considerate mindset, because we need to recognize that people also have a life. People are their main characters in their own stories. So that I think it's important to recognize that we're all here trying to figure out, and we're all here trying our best, so that it's important to be considerate and have that perspective that we're not the main character here. We're just one individual living on this earth trying to get by just like everyone else is. Here's another thing that I've been inspired by. It's a quote from Oscar Wilde, I think, pretty sure. And that is to be yourself because everyone else is taken. I think this is so true in a society where we're so influenced by social media, internet, people's opinions, that we forgot to live our true authentic selves. And this isn't to say that we shouldn't consume social media. I think there's always good and bad to everything, but social media is one of those things that we become so attached to, and we kind of give up our identities for trying to become someone that we may not truly want to be. I think it's good that we're inspired by other people, but it's also important to recognize that those people are also people trying to figure out life, that they're just sharing their experiences, not because they are perfect or that they figured out life. And it's okay to to get the opinions that can help you on your journey and just ignore or drop the ones that doesn't help you on your journey. Because the most important thing here is to live a life that's true to you and not try to copy someone else's life. So sometimes if you're feeling lost, I think it's important to take a step back and take a look at what you consume. There's this saying where you are what you consume, you are what you eat. And I think that is very applicable in terms of social media and the type of content we watch as well. I'm a true believer that we are the average of the 5 friends that we hang out with the most. It's natural to see things and we try to replicate and do and copy. So if we're constantly swarmed by these social media and marketing content, we end up losing ourselves. So whenever we're feeling down, I think it's important to step back and take a look at what we're consuming. And it's okay to take a break. My legs are getting tired, so I am going to stand up for a bit and go get my friend and introduce you. So this is Max and this is Min. I don't know if you get the meaning behind the names, but it's a very nerdy one. I'm just some awkward nerd that likes to name everything, a lot of things. Like for example, my bike has a name called Bob. Anyways, the next section of life lessons is more extrinsic and it has to do with my observations in life and general lessons about life. And I think learning to let go and let things be is an overall theme in this section of the lessons. The first one is that not everything is a competition, especially in this day and age where this hustle culture, this meritocracy, everything is about comparison. And sometimes I find that it's even hard to have a conversation with someone without it somehow feeling like it's about winning an opinion or something along those lines. And it gets really exhausting really fast if we see everything as a competition. And I understand, like, from the moment that we went to school, everything that we've learned is about, competing, winning, succeeding. But then we kind of lose the whole point of living, which is to live a happy life. And maybe to some people, winning is happy. I don't know. But what I find is that not everything is about winning, and that's okay. And I don't want to demonize competition. I think there are always good and bad with everything, and competition is surely one of them. If you sign up to run a race and you want to be number 1, by all means, that's your goal. But a lot of times, I don't think people sign up to be on earth to win, And certainly for a lot of people like myself, I just want to live a happy, simple, content life and choose the path that I feel like aligns with my value. And I don't see that as winning nor losing. Every now and then I get comments about my decision to quit was a loser mentality and that I should toughen up. And in all honesty, I don't see it that way. What I see is that I chose a path for myself that fits for me. And I've grown so much as a person. It's just so hard to describe. Is my life perfect? No. I still deal with mental health problems. And there are things that people don't know. But I can say that I am definitely more at peace with a lot of things going on. And I'm grateful for my choice and how everything played out. And if this is what losing feels like, then I honestly don't want to win. So try not to see everything as a competition. There's no right or wrong way to live a life. Do what makes sense for you. Another thing related to life in general, I don't know if you heard this before. There's always this question of like, is it the journey or the destination? For the longest time, I always thought it was the destination because that's how I've wired myself to think. All my life, I've been pretty much a perfectionist and an overachiever. So every task, assignment, projects, everything that's handed to me, I try my best to do a good job to the best of my ability. So that mindset has somehow carried through into everyday life. And a couple of years ago, I would say that everything I did had a purpose. Everywhere I go, it was about getting to that place as soon as possible. But nowadays, I'm starting to realize that life is short and that it's truly about the journey and not the destination. Like I look back and I've been living in Toronto for 11 years now, and it felt like I just moved here yesterday. And if we think about it, how many more 10 years are there in life? Sooner or later, we're gonna reach the same destination and nobody can avoid that. And we don't know when that would happen, how it would happen. So it's very important to enjoy the journey and not take everything in life so seriously. And this is definitely something that I'm constantly working on. Looking back, I think there were definitely things in my life that I would have done differently. And I wouldn't call them regrets because I think it's because of these experiences and decisions back then that made me who I am today. And I'm very grateful for that. But one of the things that I look back on is in university, I had had 3 jobs while doing a full course load. So a lot of times I would not show up to any social events. In university, there's all these like, what is it, Fresh Week, Frosh Week, Bermuda Shorts Day, all these fun stuff that I should have participated in, but I decided not to because my priority was getting ahead, achieving. And now I realize making friends is rather hard. And especially I don't have a job anymore, it makes it even harder to find friends that I can connect with. But again, I'm not saying that in a regretful way. I don't think I have any regrets in life. It's just something that would be nice. So in university, I did meet a friend and her name is Charlene. We kind of lost touch, but she taught me this happiness formula that has been very helpful for me to put things into perspective in terms of life in general. So the equation goes like this: happiness equals reality divided by expectation. And if you think about it, the more realistic we are and the lower the expectations we have, the happier we are. And I find that so true. Sometimes we expect so much out of life, out of people, out of things, that we end up being unhappy. But if we can just lower those expectations, I think we can have a more happy outlook towards whatever that thing is. A lot of times I remind myself, hey, be more realistic. If you're not feeling well today, that's what it is. Don't expect so much out of yourself. Be kind to yourself. If you're disappointed with this late delivery from Amazon, maybe reset the expectations. And this isn't to say don't have expectations at all. I think finding that balance and recognizing that maybe it's the expectations that need to be checked, or that maybe we need to be more realistic with how things are in life, that it's not perfect. I think that would help us achieve a higher sense of happiness. Another thing that's been helpful is to understand that everything happens for a reason. I think sometimes when we look at life, it throws us a lot of lemons. You know that saying where if someone gives you lemon, you make lemonade? I think that's a great perspective because it really is about what you deal with, the hurdles that's been thrown at you in life. Everyone, and I truly mean everyone, goes through things. Everyone's life is different, and that we're all being tested and challenged by these different things that happen to us. And it's important to look at them as opportunities to learn from it, whether or not this is a failed project or a late project, relationship problems, anything in life. I think there's something to be learned about it. And the way that I try to help me think in that sense is that looking back, everything always worked out in the end. So why wouldn't it continue? Here's the thing, when we're in the moment dealing with some hardships, we always feel like it's not gonna work and everything is gonna collapse. But the thing is, if we look back to all these instances that we've had challenges and all these hardships, in that moment, we were a mess. I was a mess. But then somehow it always ended up okay. And I think having that sense of comfort, knowing that things will work out in the end, having that faith is very important to help us understand that whatever we're going through right now is temporary and we're gonna grow stronger and we're gonna get through this. And sometimes I find myself thinking so logically that I try to make sense of things. It's one thing to learn from experiences, hardships, and challenges, but it's another where I personally find myself thinking so logically that I try to want to understand things. Why is this happening? What went wrong? Why this and that? But one of the things I'm starting to learn is that life is just not logical. It's illogical. Not everything makes sense and not everything needs to be fixed. Sometimes I stress myself so much feeling like I need to understand everything. I need to get to the root cause of everything so I can fix things. But that mentality is not very useful at all times. Sometimes we just need to learn to let things be. This next section is lessons that I've learned about people. And I think the overarching theme is empathy. I think in our society, especially with social media where we can just hide behind a screen, it's so easy to lead with judgment and not empathy. But I think it's important for us to lead with empathy before jumping into judgment. And here are the things that I've learned about empathy. Everyone is on a different path. Their choices in life, their experience in life, they have different goals, different priorities, different situations. And that's just the reality of life. And sometimes when we see people doing things that we don't quite understand or that it's out of character, it's so easy to jump straight to conclusion or judgment and think that's weird or that's odd. But the thing is, they probably have different priorities and experiences in life that we know nothing about. And that's the next point, which is everyone is fighting a battle. We honestly do not know what people are going through. No matter how perfect you might perceive them to be or how they present them to be, every one of us, no matter what stage in life we are, where we are in life, we're all struggling with something. And that's a part of life. So I think it's important to recognize that fact and be more mindful and considerate and not jump to the judgment that we often do. And being an INFJ, that is honestly one of the aspects that I try really hard to suppress, the J part, because I don't think that's a very healthy quality to have. And it's also because we don't know what people are going through. If they behave out of character or that they're projecting their pain and hurt onto you, it's so easy to get caught up and try to respond to that in the same energy, because projecting is the easiest way for people to express what they're going through. And sometimes they probably aren't aware of what they're going through. I mean, I've certainly been in those situations. So that's why I think leading with empathy and not judgment, I think that's a great way to look at the world and just be more understanding and considerate before judging other people. And the last thing in this section about people lessons is that people can only see you from where they are. Sometimes we want to make them see the world that we do. But the thing is, it's not something that we should do. I think people, going back to their experiences and their situations, everyone's different. Everyone have different priorities and goals, and that's their choice. I feel like sometimes this world is so divided in opinions where we're trying to change each other's opinions in a very forceful, nasty, and unpleasantly negative way. The fact is, not everyone's gonna see the world that we see, and that is okay. That is the beauty of life. One way that I look at this is that because I know that there's no right or wrong way to live, and by trying to change other people's mindset, it's like trying to convince them that a certain way is more right than another, which is not true. And suppose that even if that is true, let's say that this way is objectively better, I think it's important to not rob people of their journey, of their growth. You know, sometimes no matter how much someone tells you a certain thing, it just goes in one ear and goes out the other. And then something happens to you in your life, and then you learn that lesson and realize it. I think that's the journey of learning, of growth that people need to be on. And by trying to change people's mindset forcefully or by confronting them and arguing and debating, I think that causes a lot of stress, anxiety, and in a way, it's robbing the person of their own growth journey. Now, this next section is lessons that I've learned around the workplace. One of the reasons why I like to travel and experience different cultures is to see a different way of life. And one theme that keeps recurring is that in North America, we're so tied to this identity of work. Being in Netherlands, every time it's just so refreshing when conversations don't start with, what do you do for work? People are genuinely more interested in me as a person than my job title. But here in North America, it's so easy to tie our identities with work. When you go to a party, people often ask, what do you do for work? When you go on a date, it always comes out in the first few sentences. I don't know if this is like something that we're used to in the society, in this hustle culture where we are our job titles, but that is simply not true. You know, we are way more than our job titles. We are way more than what that corporate ladder title label that these corporations gave us. It's important to recognize that a job is just a job. I think a lot of people aspire so much to climb this ladder, and by all means, that's their choice. But don't lose yourself in labeling yourself as whatever job title that you might have. I guarantee you, you are way more than just that job title. Another thing that I learned about work is that you definitely have to draw your own boundaries because nobody else will. Sometimes it's so easy to think that, oh, I have a manager and the manager and I get along, that they're going to take care of us or that they're going to look out for our back. And I'm not saying this doesn't happen, probably does somewhere out there, but even then, they have their own agendas, they have their own priorities, and it's often tied to the company's needs and not yours. I find back then I have a lot of passion for the work that I do, and I take a lot of pride for the work that I do. And that also backfired a lot because I would push myself so hard that I would break, and I didn't learn to draw that boundary and learning to say no to things. So it's very important to draw that boundary that nobody would be drawing for you. And looking back, if I were to redo the whole thing, and again, this is not in the form of regret, but more so like this is something that I would have done differently. is honestly, I would care less. As bad as that sounds, I would still care about the work that I produce, but overall, I wouldn't care any more than that, if that makes sense. Sometimes I would get off work, I would still be thinking about work and trying to like improve this, improve that, and sometimes I would even work after work. And I take full responsibility for that because I care so much about the things that I do, the work that I produce, the people I work with. But in the end, I shouldn't have done that. I should have drawn better boundaries, care less when I need to, and care more about myself when I need to. Work is just work. No matter what the company sells you, companies have these ways of telling you that you do make a difference, and perhaps you do in certain extent, but at the end of the day, everything is just a business. Companies aren't created solely for the purpose of helping people, and that 99.9% of the business is there to make money. And if it means laying you off is the best financial move, they're gonna do it no matter how much you cared, no matter how much passion you put in, no matter how much hope you put in. So draw that boundary, prioritize yourself, and treat it just as a job. The construction outside is really loud, so I apologize if there's any additional background noise in this section, which is lessons that I've learned on this journey to financial freedom. And I think the overall takeaway is patience. Here are the lessons that I've learned in this section. The first one is that comparison is the thief of joy. And this lesson, and if you haven't already noticed, along with all the things that I've talked about, are things that can be applied in so many different areas in life. You know, I think these are lessons that can be applied to life in so many ways. But I truly believe that we shouldn't compare ourselves so much. It's one thing to be inspired and motivated, but it's another to have it induce envy, jealousy, or this sense of uncontentment. I don't know if that's a word, but sometimes it's so easy to look at our next door neighbor with a brand new car and feel like, oh, I want that too. My life isn't as good as theirs. But that is so toxic. I think it's so important to just be looking at what we have, be grateful. And it's so hard in this society when every media outlet, marketing campaigns, advertisements are telling you this story that you need more to be happy. And once you have a neighbor that starts doing it, somehow you feel like you're behind or you're missing out. But what I've learned is that freedom is recognizing what you have and be okay with it. It puts so much meaning to the word freedom in financial freedom. And sometimes I find it so easy for people to mistaken the FIRE movement or financial freedom as being rich. But the true reality of financial freedom isn't having a lot of money. And it has way more to do with the freedom than about being rich. And we should never ever compare ourselves to other people's journeys. Everyone's on a different journey. We shouldn't have to compare ourselves to make us feel better or feel worse. We are who we are. We have what we have, and we should be grateful for that. The next three things in this category are lessons that I've learned from investing. So the first one is that most things operate in cycles, and that's just the nature of the market. Try not to stress so much. In one of my previous videos, I mentioned the reason why I think it will continue to work is that in a way, I'm just investing in society and humanity. We always find a way to survive. We always find a way to be better. And greedy corporations always find a way to make more money. I think that's just a reality of the market. And by no means this is financial advice, by the way. Do your own research. This is just what I learned on my journey. Another thing I learned through investing is that it's not all or nothing. Every time I get a tax return or get a bonus paycheck, I now have this lump sum of payment. Should I put it all into the market or wait for a better time? But what I learned is that it's not all or nothing. There's this concept called DCA, which is dollar cost average, which essentially is putting chunks in periodic times instead of going all in now, all in later, wait. It's not all or nothing. You can do it incrementally. And I think that is the best tried and true concept from my experience, is that ignore the noise of the market, ignore the noise of trying to time the market, just gradually put in money. And I think that's what worked the best. And the other thing I learned is definitely the power of compounding. That is, I don't know who said this, but it is definitely the eighth wonder of the world. Was it Warren Buffett that said that? I don't know who said it, but there's a quote, famous quote. No, it was Einstein. I think it was Einstein. But I truly agree with that because the compounding effect is so powerful that I can't begin to put into words. Someone mentioned in the video that I probably made $2 million in my time in tech. Not even close. Not even close. It'd be nice, but no. And I have to really thank compounding, the power of compounding for building wealth on this financial freedom journey. So yeah, it's crazy. So it pays off to be patient. Just do the boring thing. And that leads me to the final point in this category. There's no shortcuts in life, not when it comes to investing, life in general. If you've been following for a while, I mentioned in some of my videos about my childhood, and I've seen it firsthand what taking shortcuts in life does to you and your family. I've experienced that, and I don't wish that upon anyone, any other family, because growing up as a kid, that was not fun. Recognize that there are no hacks in life. There are no shortcuts in life, especially in the world of investing. It's a very bizarre concept, but doing the boring thing, waiting for results, is the best thing to do. And again, this is not financial advice. This is just what I've experienced that has helped me on my journey. And I think building wealth and cultivating any sort of healthy mindset, it takes time. And the more boring, the more slow the process, the better off the results. So those are the life lessons that I have learned and am still learning. It's things that I need to hear every now and then. And I hope that by sharing this, it can also help you on your journey. It's a difficult world out there. There's so much noise, opinions, negativity, conflicts. And that's why it's so important to learn to be kind to ourselves. You hear me say this all the time, be kind to yourself. And the funny thing is, being kind to yourself is the first step to allow you to be kind to the rest of the world. After all, if we don't love ourselves, if we're not kind to ourselves, how are we gonna do that to other people? Whatever you're going through, try not to be so hard on yourself. Recognize that a lot of this pain and suffering happens in our mind more so than in reality. Eventually, everything would play out, everything would be fine. And if it doesn't, you learn something from it and you grow from that. Try to lead by empathy and not judgment. And the fact is, we will never understand fully what people are going through because that's their experiences. And if people are projecting, it's because they're going through some stuff that we don't know about. Try not to be so hard on yourself because there's no perfection in this world. Be okay with how it is. Be okay with what you're doing and what you are, who you are. Learn to draw the boundaries at work, in relationships, because nobody is there to draw that boundary for you. There's no right or wrong way to live a life, and this life certainly is not about winning or losing. We're all here trying to figure out what we want, how we want to live our life. Know that you're doing the best that you can, and sometimes there's no fixing in a lot of the problems that we see in the world as much as we hope there is. And learning to accept things for what they are and let go of these pain and beliefs, it can help us cultivate a simpler, more peaceful mindset towards a lot of the things that's going on. So do be kind to yourself. If you're watching up until this point, I just want to say thank you. And I know it's a very different format and I've been talking for a lot. I hope you got something out of it. And if you didn't, that's okay. Let it be. See you in the next one.